looking for yourself in another green pasture. You don't wanna grow in the place you are, and you see it. You're not so far, but don't you know, someone's thinking it too. Don't you know, when they look at you. Hey, hey, look at my face, it's a good day. Hey, hey, look at this place, we got it made. If you think about how we're up in space, little tiny dots in the Milky Way. Hey, hey, wouldn't you say it's a good day? Studying a life, but it's somebody else's. You lie to yourself, say you're just manifesting. And it feels so bad wanting what they have, and I get it, I swear. I've been where you are, couldn't hear my heart begging me to lift my head and say, hey, hey, look at my face, it's a good day. Hey, hey, look at this place, we got it made. If you think about how we're up in space, little tiny dots in a Milky Way. Hey, hey, wouldn't you say it's a good day? It's a good day. The apple trees, the sunrise. I look at my face. The apple trees, the sunrise. Oh, wouldn't you say the apple trees, the sunrise. It's a good day. The apple trees, the sunrise. It's a good day.
When we're all in a better place, when we're all in a better place, if the wind blows free from the treetops to the ocean, why can't we be in a better place? There are pieces of the world in you. There are pieces that are in me too. There are shards in the sun, and it rains on everyone, and everything's undone and broken, until we're all in a better place. Yeah, we're all in a better place. When the water flows straight down to the ocean, why are the lines so hard to trace? Oh, I'm not asking you not to be you. I don't want you to change your life, but I just want to be together, you and me, from sea to shining sea, the way it used to be. Remember, is for certain. Why let this moment go to waste? Are you ready for that grand embrace? Right here in a better place, yeah. Oh, oh, oh.
It's really that simple. Everything we do leaves a ripple. It's really that simple. Everything we do leaves a ripple. A ripple in time that turns to a wave. You either surf it or it crashes down. Choose your adventure, cause eventually you're ashes. So I live for my passions. Ain't no life passing me by. I'm all about action. We can talk about it later when we feel the effects, cause they were lasting. Putting in the work now, so later we can kick back. I ain't got no 401k, just a click track. Making something out of nothing, and that's something gives back. Residual energy, call that the feedback. Loop it up and make a new arrangement, then bump that to infinity and back to the present, where we put it on wax so we can deliver the message to the people tuning in on the earbuds, or if they hear it on the speakers in the big club. These days it's rare to hear something unique. Copycats copying copycats and sounding weak. I'm here to leave an impression, cause it seems the rap scene is in a depression. It's really that simple. Everything we do leaves a ripple. It's really that simple. Everything we do leaves a ripple. It's really that simple. Everything we do leaves a ripple. It's really that simple. Everything we do leaves a ripple. Smooth as glass, perfect reflection, placid. Had to shake it up, change the perception. Laughing instead of crying and complaining, control the emotions. Even when it's raining, the grass is growing, and I'm knowing that it takes hardship to build character. That's why I'm breathing it in, don't need an air filter. Building up resistance, immune to the garbage. Sticking to my heart, that's the life of an artist. Hardest thing I've done is stay true to it. A lot of cats fall off, don't follow through with it. I try to not get lost when I'm looking for myself. The moral compass guides us to find the true north. Stick to the path, I stay on course. Of course I lost my way a couple times to find my voice. Now that I found it, I'ma use it, make some noise. Better yet, some music so our souls can rejoice.
All right. Hey, good morning. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever we may be in this beautiful planet of ours. This is Metaphysical Meetup with the Intuitive Prospector. I do apologize. We ran into some technical difficulties this morning with Zoom. Had to do a bunch of updates, clear my cache. Everything was just not working. Go figure, right? It is Mercury retrograde that started yesterday and will take us all the way through March 20th. So I've been doing this a long time, and I can tell you, I know when technology is impacted by Mercury retrograde, because I don't only see it here. I see it with my radio show, Inspired Living, with my podcast, and it seems like every time we're in retrograde, technology is impacted. It's a curious thing, technology is not something that we always had to think or worry about, but Mercury retrograde's been around a long time, and just following the patterns of Mother Nature, astrology, how the planets are aligning. There's a big alignment that's taking place right now in the year of 2026. So if you're new to joining us on Fridays, we're usually here at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Like I said, we had to come on a little bit later because of the technical issues and updates that I usually run before the show anyway, but it just wasn't meant to be. So sometimes you just got to go with the flow when it's not working. But happy Mercury retrograde. We didn't have any issues with the podcast on Wednesday. We had a brilliant guest on, a gentleman by the name of John Perkis, who wrote a few books. He's been on a couple times. One was called The Power of Letting Go, which sold over 250,000 copies worldwide, and then The Power of Moving On. And we were actually able to bring him on as our first official television guest. So yes, the show Inspired Living, which thanks to all of you that subscribe and follow and download and review, you've made Inspired Living a top inspirational podcast to follow, a top introspective podcast to follow, and now a top spiritual podcast to follow. So we have 3 categories according to FeedSource or FeedSpot, Million Podcasts, and I think the other one is also FeedSpot. So thank you for that. But we were able to convert to Om Times Television now. So all of the shows on Wednesdays, the second and fourth Wednesdays of every month, we will be. I don't know why I was recording. We will be moving to the Om Times Television platform, which has a very big global reach through the Om Times media and radio pages, my Intuitive Prospector page, my YouTube channel, and it will go out through a couple different sources that the producer puts out when we're live. And it'll be just like this. It'll now be video-based shows and interviews. The only difference is we're in the studio and my screen splits and the guest comes on and we have a lovely inspiring chat. Here's his book right here. I'm plugging it because I've used it a lot I've used his first book, The Power of Letting Go, over the last few seasons that he was on a few seasons ago. And that has been very helpful and transformative. And that's why we come on Fridays, Fridays. So happy Friday to you. Happy weekend to you. We come on, and I say we because I have a team of moderators, and good morning to my team of moderators and administrators that keep the comments positive and flowing, especially through social media. I'm not a big fan of social media anymore, but that is how we reach people, is through the podcast, through my website, marclainhart.com, and of course this show, Metaphysical Meetup, on Fridays, to give you, conversations of difference of perspectives. The one thing we all have in common is we all sit at the table of life, which in my perspective is a round table because everything is round. The circle, the tree of life, where as above, so below. Even if you take, just not to be crass, but if you take this and lay it out, the tree of life, that's actually what a placenta after birth looks like. Just, from my past days in emergency medicine and being in a few births over my course of my years. But it's interesting. I always thought that when you lay the placenta out, which is your nutrients of how you survive while you're breathing liquid in the womb, you flay it out, it looks like the tree of life. And I've always been fascinated with the tree of life because the fingerprints of a tree almost match that of a human. So everything is life, and we come on to have perspectives and conversations, inspiring conversations. And one of the things I've been moving into and really kind of just planting seeds is we don't have to agree. We can always civilly agree to disagree, but just because I disagree with somebody doesn't mean that I hate that person. I may not like the behaviors, but I don't hate the person, right? There's a lot of things I see in this world going on that I just don't like, the words, the actions, the behaviors, but at the root of the core, they're still a human being with a soul, most of them. And we're all going to the same place. We all talk about the things consistent in life is death and taxes. And when we come on Fridays live, it's to interact with you and to get your perspectives of how you're feeling, what's going on in the world, what you see of the world, and there's a lot going on. If you've been with me or you're one of my subscribers, which there's a couple of you on today, good morning to you. Hi, Tara. Hi, Kara. Good to see you. Thanks for hanging out and prospecting with me. You know that I've been talking about our roaring 20s. I started talking about this forecasting, psychic predictions, whatever you want to call it, back in 2016, 2017, and especially as we got up into the roaring 20s. In this roaring 20s, this one decade, we're in 2026 now, this one decade will be reviewed in history as very transformative, very chaotic, very much the ascensions of human consciousness. And you can see it. You don't even have to take my word for it. You can turn on your news, your television, turn to a program and channel that information that you want. But everything from, I just saw Uber's releasing their flying cars, their drones. We're moving to the Jetsons. I'm actually seeing in real time, real things. Robots that dance just like humans. China just released their Chinese New Year celebration, and if you can go check this out, there's over 1 billion people that watch it. Their dancers are dancing with robots that are doing the exact same thing, doing flips. Whereas just a few years ago, those same robots were programmed just trying to kick a ball into a soccer, it was on a soccer field, and they would move and kick the ball, and it would look very robotic. 18 months later, holy smokes, doesn't even look, it looks very science fiction. But if you follow my journey and you follow my podcast or my newsletter or my forecast, you'll know that I've been talking about this for a long time, and that we would learn in our roaring 20s that we're not alone in the universe. That has now come to that's come to fruition and has manifested into our reality, to where the highest levels of government now, from the Department of War, the Department of Justice, and yes, this administration, which I figured if any administration was going to do it, it would be this administration, is releasing information on UAP, UFO, extra-dimensional beings. And my big thing is just show us the ships, show us, high resolution ships, pictures of the ship that always seems like the resolution is distorted. And that might be something to do with their technology, right? Our technology is trying to capture their technology, and it always seems to be distorted, but they move very quickly. But I'm just excited we're having conversations about it, because it's conversations and transparency that brings awareness, and awareness is the greatest agent for change that I have learned in my journey of doing this and prospecting on this planet for over 50 years now. So this age of transformation, our roaring 20s, is not only going to see not only the introduction of AI, open AI, which is going to impact every single one of your lives, whether you know it now or not, robotics, algorithms, smarter technology, holograms, as we move into space, as we're about to send 4 astronauts back to the moon, the first time in 50 years. The Artemis project, which, following this, I didn't realize Artemis was the twin sister to Apollo, and Apollo missions is what sent us to the moon. Now, this is where somebody could debate, again, you're entitled to your opinion, but you're not entitled to your fact. And I haven't seen anything otherwise that would dispute that we went to the moon. Being in my family tree of, Neil Armstrong runs in my grandma's side, Armstrong family, first man on the moon. But I haven't found, I know there's a lot of theories and conspiracy theories out there, but I haven't found that to be true, to dispute or debunk that we went to the moon. But we're going back to the moon here shortly after they get all the technical, hydrogen leaks figured out. But we're going back to the moon. We've been told that, yes, aliens are real. There are 7 presidents today that have spoken openly. And again, when you're at the highest level of government, you've got 7 U.S. presidents who have spoken openly about UFOs, UAPs, first contact, going all the way back to, let's see, I'm looking at their pictures here. First one was Truman, the Truman Doctrine, back right after World War II, right after we released our first nuclear, well, be an atom bomb on Japan, Nagasaki and Hiroshima. We released a great, powerful weapon that changed the world forever, right? This was 1945, it ended World War II. Truman, after Roosevelt passed, became president, and there are a lot of, again, theories and conspiracy theories that we signed an agreement with, some call it the Galactic Federation, species that's not human. And he talked about this openly on the record, followed by Eisenhower. President Eisenhower followed this up, talking about the military-industrial complex, or the military-industrial congressional complex. He actually crossed out Congress in his speech. Followed up by Jimmy Carter, who actually was, like me, an experiencer of something that we just can't explain. Mine was in my former Coast Guard days. Followed up by Ronald Reagan, who wanted to make the Star Wars, yes, the Star Wars system. Followed by Bill Clinton, who talked about openly about UFOs. Followed recently by the recent, within the last week, former President Obama was asked on a podcast, and his response was, yes, aliens are real, but I haven't seen them. Follow that by 24 hours later to where President Trump was then asked, what about this story about aliens being real? And he went on to say, well, that was classified information. He shouldn't have said that. Now I have to declassify it so that he doesn't get in trouble. So, just this stuff over the last 72 hours has been fascinating to watch. But we have presidents at the highest level. And I think this goes way beyond what presidents know or what presidents don't know. But a couple things is, as you move forward in this roaring 20s, in this age of transformation and ascension and evolution, because that's what I see it. I don't see it as a scary thing. I personally believe, from my own experience, when I had, back in '99, back in the Coast Guard, I didn't feel afraid. I didn't feel scared. It was very similar to Spielberg's first movie, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, with the balls of light that zipped. And that's the thing. They made no noises and they moved, and they would move so quickly that your eye would have to shift to catch them, right? And then one big ball of light went down the ocean and everything lit up cobalt blue, just like my Seahawks. You guys all like my Seahawks. My latest Super Bowl, we are the best in the world for this year. So I have to celebrate it. Plus, the United States is reaching our 250 mark. Hopefully, we can stay together as an empire, because history teaches us that after 250, things tend to not go great. And then, I've been a fan of Seahawks for my whole life, so 50 years. So, but this is their latest because they won Super Bowl 60. And I've been to the Super Bowl. So I'm just kind of, you may not agree with the Seahawks either. That's okay. You're entitled to your opinion, but you're not entitled to your facts. And the fact is, the Seattle Seahawks are the best football team in 2025 and 2026 until the next Super Bowl. So we gotta milk it while we can, right? So, but you don't have to agree with that. You may hate the Seahawks. You may love the Seahawks. That's okay. I just do it in jest. I do it in sport. But we are on here on Mondays to talk about things that are going on in our roaring 20s. There's a lot that we're going to probably see. We'll probably even see a third world war during this time frame, and not a world war based on nuclear weapons, because everybody knows, the smart people in charge know that that's a zero-sum game. Nobody would win from that, so there's really no benefit. So you keep each country at bay. But I imagine that the third world war that we'll see from a forecasting standpoint is going to be more technological, energy grid systems, AI, drones, robotics. That kind of, as we move forward, because we've got the big three. But one of the things that I want you to think about from a perspective, and get yourself a conspiracy theorist friend, because you're going to need one of us to understand what's about to happen, is the race for UFO and UAP is really about the technology, reverse engineering technology, which we know has been going on for several years, almost 70 years, 75 plus years now. But in the documentary, the Day of Disclosure on Prime, which is Prime's #1 documentary of all time now, it talks about, they know aliens are real. They've been communicating with us for years. Even before communicating with us, they've shown up in paintings from the 1500s. They've shown up in cave paintings in Australia back to over 4,000 years ago. The Star Seed, many indigenous tribes talk about the Star People. We know that they're there, but what was interesting in the documentary is that it's based on technology. Just like who got to the atom bomb first, the United States did, and the Allies, to end World War II and become a superior nation based on the technology. Same thing applies. It's just reverse engineering with technology that's farther advanced than us. And who's going to have that superiority? Us, Russia, or China, the big three on the block. And there's a race for that. That's what OpenAI is all about as well, because I personally believe that AI is going to be a communication tool, just like it was in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Back in 1977, they communicated not by me talking like I'm talking to you now. They communicated based on colors, hand signals, vibrations, and sound. And I believe AI will help I think AI should have been here sooner. It started back in the 1950s. We've done a lot of research in my development group, the Spiritual Growth Collective, and we have talked about this. We have been talking and debating about this. The theories came up of AI back in the 50s, and some have theorized this should have rolled out in the 90s, 2000s, that we're behind. They've known about AI for a long time. And remember, our government is not going to tell us until they need to tell us, right? I worked for government for over 23 years, federal government, in my time. And I can tell you the transparency is not there. The violation against the Constitution is there. And it will be not the government nor the media that will release this. It will be crowdsourcing, people with the ability to protest, the people to legislate their elected officials and really come together, which is also something I've seen for the planet, is this great coming together of resources and people to say, we don't want to live this way anymore. We don't want to, continue to struggle. We want something better. It's a very I point to the Star Wars posters behind me because it's going to be a very Star Trek moment. Because in the future, Gene Roddenberry wrote many in the future, science fiction becoming science fact, paranormal becoming normal, is that we won't work for money in the future like we do now. There will be a change in how we actually move forward versus, receiving a wage to put something together. Because if robots and AI and algorithms start to replace that, that's going to give us as humans more time for imagination, creativity, the next industrial revolution. And so, scientists are warning that Earth could really run out of conspiracy theories by 2026 if they keep coming true at the current rate that we're going. The truth that, whether you agree with it or not, I've talked about the eliteness up here, this 1% that's been around going hundreds of years back, old money, old power, old ways of thinking, and what you're witnessing with the Epstein files that have been released and the games that are going on with that. There's gamesmanship, a game of chess. It's not a divide of left versus right. We have that. We've had that, since the civil rights. It's only been 70 years where we're a very divided country. This is more of a top down to bottom and bottom up to top is what is showing that there really is a top, there is a bottom, and above that scale is an eliteness that they don't have to correspond, and a global eliteness. That's the thing that's going to continue you're going to continue to see is the fallout from this. It's a global network doing very nefarious, bad, horrible things, especially to children. But there's even you're going to see religious folks tied to this. You're going to see athletes tied to this, actors tied to this, world leaders tied to this. This is going to continue, and what it's showing us as a species that there is an eliteness, that there is a top, there's a middle, and there's a bottom. And with that category, there's a global, whether you call it the Illuminati, or you call it the Masons, or you call it the Cabal. It can go by many different names, but there is a swath on a global scale of people that don't have to correspond to the rule of law and have lots and lots of power, especially if they're millionaires and billionaires. We started to get into oligarchy, and we start to get, but what it's telling me, I'm not going to choose sides. I'm not here to be political. That's not what this show is about. But I'm just telling you, it is realizing the truth in the year of the 2026, the year of the horse, is reveal of truth. And the truth is that there is a top, a middle, and a bottom. And above all that, there's an eliteness, and it's at a global scale. And we're gonna see that. But we need to have that truth, because truth and transparency will lead the way to a new way of thinking. So, my question right now, based on where we're at, and it's a serious question, especially here living in the United States. I have a lot of colleagues that live outside the United States, Canada, London, Portugal, Brazil, and we have conversations about what the United States looks like and what we're about to do in Iran, with that buildup of military. And I'm just like, this is a serious question, but why does the U.S. always have trillions ready for wars, but suddenly becomes broke when people in the country need better health care, or lower healthcare costs, or lower taxes, or just a better life? That's something that tells me that there is an eliteness. And there's major corporations, some of them very, very old, tied to the UFO technology, like Motorola, like Raytheon. But we know that there's about 25 huge conglomerate companies that have a lot of power, amassed a lot of wealth, a lot of power, a lot of control. And they make about 80% of our world decisions on a global scale. That has always been concerning to me. Now, I know that, people will say, oh, that's conspiracy theory, but science fiction at some point is science fiction. We talk about it, and then it becomes science fact. Paranormal is paranormal or spooky. We don't understand it, but then it becomes normal. And that's where we're moving. We're moving through this technology, whether it's data, release of files, going to the moon, flying, cars, technology in drones, technology in nanotechnology for our health, what we wear, our smart technology that we can wear now. These are just all the things that we have to go through and jump through these hoops so we can evolve to a higher state of being, or what the Kirchhoff scale would try to get to us to be at least a civilization 1 category. There's 5 categories. We haven't even reached a civilization category 1 yet, and we're probably about 100 years from that. But you can research that. That's something that has been around for a while, about where we're going. But we come on Fridays to, just like I said down below, if you want to learn more, you can internet search the Intuitive Prospector, marclainhart.com. And let's go prospecting, because we're prospecting for the what is known and also what is unknown. I've my whole life I've been curious about things that make you go things that are seen, things that are unseen. Because I always say that you have three eyes in life: two to look, one to see. And one of the things that has been really interesting to me lately is the conversations around plant medicine, DMT, and I'm going to get into that today. DMT, death and dying. Um, it's very interesting concept, something that I've experienced firsthand now, something that I've been working with for the last 18 months, ever since I left the federal government. My exploration with plant medicines has taken me very deep to understanding the knowledge and wisdom that is seen through plant medicine. But before I jump into the conversation on DMT and death and DMT, I did want to just shout out to the songs that I played today. The first one was Alex Blues, called the Milky Way. The second one was A Better Place by Peter McConnell, and the third one was called The Ripple Effect by Spence Quality. These are all music tracks that I get to play on my shows, my podcasts, through my YouTube channel, because they're not copyright or trademark, and it allows for me to have entertainment on my shows with great musicians, but then also promote the musicians that are singing this music if you want to check them out. But just wanted to point that out real quick. So let's talk about, let me see if I can say this, DMT. I believe in it so much that it's tattooed right here on my arm. Not by the plant medicines, you can't see it, but there right here it says DMT. And those are the initials, which I think are, interesting or synchronistic or coincidental. The DMT is actually the initials of people that I was very close to that I lost along the way. And living with loss, grief. It's a big part of who I am and what I do today is because of those experiences. D is for my father-in-law, Don, who passed at the young age of 47 to multiple sclerosis. M is for my younger brother, Michael, who was murdered over marijuana, which 20 plus years later, it's actually legal in most of the United States, at least 35 of the 50 states. There's a few states that are always going to be behind. We get that. And then the T is for my older brother, Todd, who passed at the age of 35 from brain cancer, what we call glioblastoma. So 47, Michael was just 21 when he was murdered, and Todd was 35, living his life. And so I got those in memory of them, but it's also the tattoo represents my true north. I always know where I'm going, my compass. And that DMT along the way is something that I started experience with through plant medicines, and understanding how plant medicines can open us, awaken us, heal us, transform us, and transform us. And it has transformed me tremendously the last, ever since I retired and went through my medical retirement and all my surgeries. I've had 5 surgeries since 2024. But it's Dima, I don't know if I can say it, dimethyltryptamine, and its potential role during death is a fascinating area of research. And this is something that I started to think about, because the DMT is stored here in your pineal gland. Women who are pregnant can release DMT into their system, and it can give you that, almost like you've left your body kind of format, an out of body experience. The psychedelic format can make your mind see different colors and go to different areas. But one of the things about the pineal gland, which is also connected to the third eye, it uses a lot of blood flow from the heart. Actually, the second most blood flow out of the aorta goes up to the pineal gland, which is in the center of the brain. And it's called a gland because it's shaped like an eye. It is shaped just like our eyes, like a kind of a, I don't know, like a seed. And what we have learned is that it's surrounded in a fluid just like our eye, and in that fluid there are little hairs called cilia, and these can attract energy, frequency, vibrations. And so that's why it's called the pineal gland. But within the pineal gland itself, it also regulates your melatonin and your sleep state. So I always remind listeners or my students that we have 3 states of awakening right now, or 3 states of consciousness. Right now we're in the awakened state, and then in a few hours I go to sleep and my pineal gland starts to be activated. My brain actually is dormant now, but when I go to sleep, it actually starts firing on many different levels, right? We're bringing science in and spirituality and merging the two. And that pineal gland releases melatonin, which helps sleep regulate. And then at some point in that state of consciousness, whether it's awake, dream, or asleep, then we go into the dreamscape. And it's through the dreamscape that we have a lot of connections and communications that most people don't even realize. and then you wake up again. But what fascinated about me was, when people die, and I've had my own near-death experience, and I'm right now I'm in a full state of grief, living with loss, after helping my, fur baby of 15 years, O'Malley Moose, our cat, who was awesome, who was just a lover, just a companion for the last 15 years. He had kidney failure, and we had to, give him the shot to send him over the Rainbow Bridge. At least we could do that so he didn't suffer, right? But that living with loss, and as we were doing this, I wondered if there was a release of DMT, because they've done studies in animals with DMT at the time of death, and now they're doing them on humans to see, is there a release of DMT within the brain? That gives us, when we die, and I've been around a lot of death and dying, I've been with people when they've passed, including my grandma, and I've professionally been in the arena as a first responder in my days in the Coast Guard, seeing people pass. And it's long sat with me, even my own near-death experience. I didn't have any I was in a river accident. I didn't have any, light at the end of the tunnel. I didn't have any flash. I was just at peace. Everything just felt peaceful. But this DMT, what is it? It's a chemical structure within the brain. And there's a theory that people see when the DMT releases into the brain, we see that as, oh, we're crossing over the Rainbow Bridge, or we're on our way to heaven, whatever your belief system is, whatever. You may not have a belief system in God. That's fine too. We welcome atheists, agnostics, and full believers. But I just, from my own experience and the thousands of readings I've done over the year, I know that there is another side to this coin that we don't get to see, because we're here to learn, right? That's the whole point of life, is learn it from experience and fail at what you do first attempt at learning. It's a learning process to elevate the consciousness of who we are as a soul. But the DMT is released in the brain, and some scientists now are theorizing that the energy that leaves our heart and the DMT that's released into our brain, which we call death, might not even be a real thing. It's the carbon unit shutting down. It's the organic material that actually ends, because the body can't produce anymore. Just like, my boy Moose, his kidneys failed, and he was actually getting severely dehydrated. We knew something was up because he was shaking, his paw was shaking, and that's a symptom of dehydration. So he took him and got his blood work, and he had full kidney failure. In the States, you can't do a kidney operation. If there was the technology and we could 3D print a new kidney for them, which I think will be in the future for our fur babies and our loved ones, but not today. That's not, and even the vet said we can, hydrate him for a month, but when, we do that, he'll be right back to where he is, because his kidneys have reached their point. But I truly believe, and he's already come back and visited me through my dreams and through a couple of scenarios already, that is just confirmation for me that life is always moving on. It's just not the body that always moves on, right? But the energy in the heart, the God spark, the divinity within, moves by the laws of physics to source. And then the release of DMT is it's almost like a medicine to help us acclimate to the new state of consciousness that we have moved into. And some scientists now are theorizing that death is actually an illusion, that we do move on based on energy and frequency and vibration and love, and that the DMT is a medicine, just like the medicine we gave to O'Malley to relax him, then gave him a second shot to suppress takes his last breath. And then the third shot is what actually sends him over the Rainbow Bridge. I believe in the future we'll do that for humans, especially if we know that they're terminal and we can't 3D print the medicine, the technology is not there. But people are going to live longer because the technology and the medicine and 3D printing, including organs, will be a future thing. But it's right now science fiction, but will someday become science fact. So the chemical structure in our brain, and that's what, I do a lot of work as a psychic and as a medium and as an intuitive. But I also like to bridge, on the teachings of what Carl Sagan talked about, spirituality and science working in hand and not separate from each other. And so for me, the DMT is just an acknowledgement that that's probably a release that gets us ready to acclimate to the next stage of consciousness, or whatever that is for you, heaven, hell, it's really your choice. For me, it's about moving up the staircase of light one step at a time. And the DMT is the chemical structure. It's a naturally occurring psychedelic compound found in various plants and animals, and it's structurally similar to the serotonin that's in our brain. The psychoactive effects, when ingested, which I have done, DMT produces an intense visual and auditory hallucination, and often described as life-altering experiences. I can tell you, when I had my first plant medicine experience, it was very life-altering. I literally saw myself die and be reborn in several ways. but very supportive, very compassionate, full of love, nothing to be, again, we go into what we don't understand to the fear-based energy, and that fear can shut us down. I would say don't buy into fear unless it's a real scenario. If it's a real scenario, like your plane's going down, yeah, that's fear-based energy, right? Or a bear's chasing you, that's fear-based energy, right? But you're gonna do one of three things. You're gonna fight, flight, or freeze. And through that, through the fight, flight, or freeze, that is true fear, to where your nervous systems, your adrenals, your auric field moves into a survival format of fight, flight, or freeze. Everything else is a construct of our consciousness and our thought. And that, to me, when I see fear-based energy, which I'll be honest, when I had my first experience, it was a 3-night experience. The first night was right before I took the medicine. I was like, I was sweating. My ego was like, what are you doing? Because you can't control an outcome. You lose control. But Buddha teaches us you got to let that shit go. And so when I took the DMT in, I had a rebirth, and had a magical few nights that that now I do it annually, is part of my spiritual journey, part of my spiritual healing, part of my spiritual growth, part of my spiritual awakening. I know that that is not for everybody. You can talk about DMT, the psychedelics, you can talk about cannabis and hemp, you can talk about peyote, you can talk about ayahuasca, you can talk about psilocybin. There's many plants that have been around us for thousands of years, and the plants have been connected to us and have taught us and healed us. We as humans have pulled away and have moved into concrete cities and gotten away from nature. And I always say, when people say, are you religious or spiritual? I always tell them, actually, I'm spiritual. I'm not religious. I've studied all the religions, or most of the top 10 around the world. I think there's something to that, but there's a control factor and a dogma with religion. You need to be, when you're told to do something in religion, you have to do it. In spirituality, we know what the right thing is to do, and we don't need to do it if we don't want to. And so it's that, I always say religion is man-made control, and dogmas and a lot of fear-based energy, right? I grew up being told if you're not good, you're going to go to hell and burn in the pits of hell. And that's psychologically damaging to tell somebody that and live your life according to a lie, to a belief. I'm like Carl Sagan. I don't want to believe, I want to know. And so, my knowing has been this last 2 years of transformation, but that fear-based energy, and I had to tell myself when I ingested this DMT, and everything started, I could hear I could feel and hear the heartbeat of Mother Earth and Mother Gaia. But that fear-based energy would creep in. I'd be like, no, take a deep breath. Breath is very, very powerful. Think about when you're about to be born, right? How scary that can be. All of a sudden you're in this nice, comfortable womb, and you're all comfortable and warm. And then all of a sudden you're being pushed out, and all of a sudden there's this bright light, right? It's kind of like death, right? And all of a sudden you've been breathing liquid for 9 months, and all of a sudden you're being activated or slapped or stimulated to take a deep breath in, right? Think about when you lose your breath and how quick you respond. And I've had this a couple of times where I can't catch my breath, or I've been underwater diving and had to go to a backup tank because or even in my firefighting days, you run out of air on your SCBA, and all of a sudden your mask is pulling tight. There's a panic, but you have to overcome that panic and say, okay, fear is false evidence appearing real. Calm your system, face everything, and rise. That's how I approach fear. False evidence appearing real, face everything and rise. And so all of a sudden you come out of the womb, you're breathing liquid in a nice, dark, comfortable, warm place. Now you're out stimulated in a cold, full of light, with lots of things going around you, and all of a sudden now you're going to start breathing. I look at death as the same way. Death is going to be like being reborn in a new way, to where you don't need breath because you don't have physical lungs. But your consciousness of who you are, your love of who you are, will transcend to that next adventure, or what I call soul adventures. But when you've ingested DMT for the first time, it produces visual and auditory, where I could see with my eyes open and I can see with my eyes closed. And I love it. It is such a connection tool. Again, been around for thousands and thousands of years, used by many cultures around the world. And when you're ready, I would recommend exploring and prospecting for that, because it has helped me tremendously in my journey. Because in spirituality, you can only do so much, and then you got to go deeper down the rabbit hole. You've experienced things, you've seen things, but you want to experience more for yourself. So the pineal gland hypothesis is that some researchers suggest that DMT is produced in the pineal gland. Again, this is a gland in the center of the eye, also called the third eye because it's shaped like an eye, particularly during extreme stress or at time of death. And now I know in times of stress, people have talked about where time slows down. I've read where Police officers have been shot at, and they can actually see the bullet coming at them in real time in slow motion. Several athletes have this ability to slow down, especially great hitters in baseball, that they can see the ball coming. For us, it's like, it just went 100 miles an hour. But for great athletes that can focus their mind, again, focuses of the mind, they can see down, they can slow that ball down to where it's moving like at 20 miles an hour and then just crush it, right? So I've read a lot of studies. I did up my background after my bachelor's in business management. I moved into my graduate studies of sports medicine and human performance. And that's what really started to open me up to spirituality and science and the brain and the mind and, and understanding how the universe talks to us. But people are going to, that don't have these experiences, they're going to look at people like myself as being, woo-woo or batshit crazy. Like I said, some people call me batshit crazy. Other people call me for advice and consulting, and which I've won several awards for over the years. And so there's something to it. And it's really about this, what Einstein called this 3.5-pound brain, this 3.5-pound organism between our temples, that is one of the most curious things in the universe. And when you start to align and open up that pineal gland, the awakening, the pineal gland is closed like a pine cone. When you start to open and become aware, you open up the pineal gland and those cecilias reach farther, greater distances, and you can pick up different things. For me, I didn't know that I would do this later in life, to be honest with you. I started, my brothers started their transition back when I had just turned 27. So I've been working on this for a long time. And then it was through my sports medicine graduate studies that I really started to explore meditation and breath work, and realizing how the universe does communicate with us. The universe is not going to communicate in a big booming voice from the sky. Hello, Mark, I am God. Many, Carl Jung, Carl Sagan, Hawkins, Da Vinci, Nikola Tesla, they all talked about signs and symbols and synergies and synchronicities. The universe will talk to you through synchronicities and coincidence. It's usually a pattern of three, the power of three. I realized that even in my days prior to spirituality, as a first responder, firefighter, EMT, we would see calls come in the power of three. There would be three major moments. You can see that in your own life, I'm sure. But that's how the universe starts to connect with you. And the more you become aware of the mystic, the more the mystic becomes aware of you, because you're opening this up. And I believe it is through the DMT. But what they've done is this theory that DMT may contribute to near-death experiences, also known as NDEs, near-death experiences, or NDAs, near-death awareness. Some of the studies that they've currently done on DMT within the brain, rodent studies, research has shown that rodents can produce DMT in their brains, particularly during stressful situations. So they'll actually put them in a stressful situation, monitor the brain, and there'll be a release of DMT. Some studies have indicated increased levels of DMT in the brains of dying rats, and that's how we, that's part of medicine, is to realize that we do our studies on animals, and I think that's why humans are scared of aliens, because they think we're going to do the same thing that we do to our animals. They don't. They're farther more advanced. If they would have done something, I think they study us. I think that's where abductions come in for sure. But I think that if they were hostile, they could take us out whenever they wanted. They would have done it back in the 40s after we reached the atomic bomb nuclear capabilities, because that's the ability, as Einstein said, what species builds their own mousetrap? And we did that with the nuclear bomb. And the UAPs, UFOs, are very interested in nuclear capabilities, from submarines to nuclear missile silos all around the world, not just in the United States. But we are doing studies on these animals to see if there's a release to DMT. And some countries now are acknowledging that animals are sentient. There's a country, either Australia or New Zealand, had just signed into law that animals are sentient and can process emotions and have feelings and can feel things too. So I think we're going to have to. I think that's where maybe AI will start to replace animal testing, because I say dying rats, they're dying, right? We're just studying them, but I'm sure that there's studies too that induce death to see what the release of DMT is. But other species, there is limited research on other species, but the presence of DMT in various species raises questions about its role not only in our stress but also in our death. And some scientists and theories are that death is an illusion, that this is like opening up and realizing that this might be a simulation. Some theorize that this is a simulation, right? So where does that lead us for human studies and medical reviews? And this is kind of what I was researching. So NDEs, I've done a couple podcasts over the years with nurses that have talked about NDEs. Probably because I'm talking about that means probably another one will come up that we can continue to talk about NDEs. Um, the neurochemical pathways that they're studying within the brain, because the brain has billions and trillions of neurons and protons and electrons and neural pathways. But the medical reviews, they're limited based on the data right now because the medical reviews regarding DMT's role in human death are sparse, but most exciting studies focus on its psychedelic, psychoactive effects rather than its physiological role at death. The psychedelic research that has been done, recent interest in psychedelics has led to a reinsurgent in research. I know this with psilocybin as a disabled veteran myself. I know that the VA is looking at psychedelics, including psilocybin, microdose mushrooms, magic mushrooms, as a way to deal with stress, a way to deal with anxiety, depression, suicide ideations, suicide attempts itself. So, including studies of DMT's potential, again, I say potential therapeutic effects, both in mental health conditions like depression and PTSD. I can speak from firsthand experience as an experiencer, as a veteran, the things that I've seen and done in my 50 plus years, it is very beneficial. There is definitely something to this. And in the future, as a forecast during our roaring 20s, we're going to see more with psilocybin, psychedelics, plant medicine, 100%. Cannabis, just legalize it. Alcohol is actually down. And actually, the studies of alcohol are quite interesting in the alcohol market. A multi-billion-dollar man-made industry knows this. The studies are showing the younger generations aren't drinking as much as they used to. So I would be surprised if alcohol takes a big dip and plant medicines take a big rise and switch places because there's just more benefits and you feel good, right? And you can detach from your reality if you want to. It's like going to sleep, right? Sleep it off. Current research directions, like I said, neurochemical pathways. Ongoing studies aim to understand the neurochemical pathways involved with DMT production and its effects on the brain during critical conditions. Therapeutic applications, researchers are exploring the use of DMT in controlled settings for potential mental health benefits. My naturopath doctor is actually here in the state of Washington. She's working with the University of Washington in this actual setting. She's a doctor in a controlled setting with the administration of psilocybin. This would be more of the mushroom side, the psilocybin, to see the effects, because that's part of the data that we need to study, right? We haven't gotten to where we have without past studies and exploration, but the research is limited. The ethical considerations, the study of DMT, especially in humans, faces both ethical and practical challenges, particularly concerning consent and the implications of psychoactive substances and the legality of it, because some of the plant medicines are still illegal around the world and in certain countries and in certain states, even here in the United States. So, I think that it's promising research regarding DMT. I know in some of my experiences with severe stress that I've gone into some weird visual aspect of who I am and what I've seen and what I know, including the ability to unlock and, what happened with the trauma and tragedy of my own DMT, my brothers and my father-in-law. It did a neuroplasticity in my brain that allowed me to see, I think, just a broader perspective. You can call that psychic, you can call that medium, you can call it intuitive. There's many different names for it, but I think much remains to be studied when it comes to the DMT. I just wanted to, share that with you today. The connection between DMT releasing during death and the psychological experiences reported by individuals is both evolving and complex. But I think that there are certain mechanisms to the DMT production. Again, it's synthesized from the amino acid tryptophan through a series of enzymic reactions. And boy, these are big words on my research. The enzyme of INMT, you can just look up INMT. I'm not going to, I can't say it. It's literally this long looking at the research, is believed to play a significant role in the synthesis. And the pineal gland, the hypothesis is that the pineal gland does produce DMT, has garnered much more attention long before medicine, even spiritual practices dating thousands of years ago. Ancient techniques have all tied to the pineal gland based on chanting, based on sound vibration, based on breath work, right? I believe so much in breath work, I've got it tattooed right here as a reminder. This is the oldest Sanskrit known to man, and this is the symbol of breath. We inhale. Life is not a series of straight lines, right? You can attest to that. and then we exhale, the next journey. So, breath is a very big, important part of this. Just do a couple breath exercises and you'll see a difference just on your mindset, your stress levels, your auric field, your nervous system, your adrenals. Like I said, I have done a lot of research over the years in who I am and what I do as the intuitive prospector, but I have blended a lot of spirituality with a lot of scientific research in who I am and what I do and why I do it, right? But the stress response, we call it the third eye, and have for many, many centuries. In various spiritual traditions, you might not be spiritual. You don't need to be spiritual to know that you have the third eye too. Everybody has it. Everybody on the planet has the same heart and the same anatomy and physiology that I know of, unless, I know Spielberg's coming out with his next movie, Day of Disclosure, here in a couple months, which is fitting because are we all the same? I don't know. We'll have to find out. But, for most of us that, we have the same blood, we have the same eye makeup, we have the same heart makeup, we have the same, 2 arms, 2 legs, we walk upright, right? And that leads me to believe that everybody's has a pineal gland, and whether you activate it or not, that's free will and choice. That's completely up to you. But it's just interesting that they believe that this gland at time of severe stress or death and dying or an NDE releases into your brain. And that's why we physically see, like, oh my God, the light at the end of the tunnel. There's Jesus. There's Muhammad. There's Gandhi. There's, all the greats that have come before us. You're interacting with them because you're moving into a new dimensional mind state. And, it's that physical, that stress response during, like I said, trauma. I think it's trauma, to be honest with you. I think it's the traumas and the tragedies that released DMT in my brain long before I even used psychedelics. Like I said, I was 27. I didn't know what was happening. I don't know why it was happening, but I just knew that my abilities started to open up, my clairvoyance, my clairsentience. These what we call clairs are in conjunction with your 5 senses: see it, taste it, touch it, hear it, smell it. And then your spiritual clairs, clairvoyance, clairsentience, feeling, claircognizance, knowing, clairaudience, hearing, clairfactory, smelling, clairgustance, tasting. These are all clairs that you are having experiences, but I'm tasting French toast, but I don't have French toast in my mouth. I remember when this first started, we were in Savannah, Georgia, and I could hear an old record player playing in the room where we were staying in Savannah, Georgia, which is a very hot spot for paranormal and death and dying and great tragedies and tragic diseases that wiped out hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions. Epidemics. Savannah is the hot spot for that. And I had to ask my wife. This was in the early years. I'm like, do you hear that record playing? It sounded like it was from the 1920s, like an old record. With you put the needle on and it plays. That's what I was seeing it and I was hearing it. And Jenny couldn't validate that. And so now when we're out and about, even when we were up in Zion last week, honoring our grief with our best friends in Nevada. It's in Utah. We flew to Las Vegas and then drove up to Utah to explore Zion, which is another phenomenal place. If you've not been to Zion National Park, highly recommend it. But there was a couple scenarios where I had to ask them, like, are you guys, I actually check in, are you guys seeing this? And they're like, yeah, we see it, Mark. But there are other times like, no, we don't. We don't hear what you're seeing. And I think during those very stressful, traumatic times, I can look back at it now and go, oh, I bet you I was releasing DMT from a psychological and from a psychedelic perspective that opened my brain and rewire, which we call neuroplasticity, right? But it's some studies suggest that the release of DMT might be part of a proactive mechanism, potentially leading to altered states of consciousness. I guarantee you, DMT. If you do DMT, there will be altered states of consciousness. Hypoxia, which is low oxygen levels during critical states, can also stimulate the brain to produce DMT, which may contribute to the experiences reported by individuals during near-death situations. Now, I've long then have moved and grown and studied and educated and been mentored. A big part of breath is some of the breath work that I do, whether it's Wim Hof in cold plunge environments or Soma, S-O-M-A, Soma breath work, which is an ancient technique of breath work that actually puts you into a state of hypoxia that actually my mental health counselor years ago taught me how to do as part of my grief counseling and spiritual counseling. And so there are many times that I can put myself into a state of hypoxia where I'm actually taking breaths in, holding my breath, exhaling, and doing a series of that. We do it in my development group all the time because I remind them about how important breath is. But what'll happen is you can put a pulse oximeter. I don't know if I've got it down here or not. I don't think I do. I think I put it in my bag. Yeah. Oh, no. Is it right here? Oh, right here. Okay. I'm digging into my bag of like a toolbox, like as a spiritual intuitive prospector, just like a plumber, a carpenter, a welder, a surgeon. I have many different tools that I can use. And so this is called a pulse oximeter. And so you can get this on Amazon for like 20 bucks, right? And when you put your state in, when you move into a state of hypoxia, I'll put this on my finger, and this is a pulse oximeter. So it's registering the oxygen that is circulating through my blood. So right now you can see I'm at 97, and my beats per minute is 125 beats per minute. One, because I have inspiration, I'm drinking coffee, and now I have a pulse oximeter on my finger. And what that's doing is it's measuring. And now when I go into a state of practicing soma breath work, I can lower this. I've gotten it down as low as 84% in using soma breath work. But what I'll do is I'll go into a state of hypoxia, and hypoxia is just low oxygen levels that can be during critical states. I know the Navy SEALs use this form of breath, box breath, to manage and to stay focused in times of great stress, war, what have you. You're being attacked. But it can stimulate the brain to produce DMT, and that may contribute to experiences reported by individuals, both athletes, warriors, near-death experiences, all of the above. Common features that I have found, excuse me, got a hiccup, and then we'll start to wrap up here. Common features, NDEs often include sensations of detachment. I've had that with plant medicine, my own experience with ingesting DMT. Feelings of peace, seeing bright lights, check, check, and check. Encountering deceased loved ones, check, check, and check. These experiences have been recorded across several cultures, several religions, and several regions around the world. The DMT connection is fascinating to me, and I hope you found this educational or inspiring today for your own journey, because that's why we come on Fridays. And I apologize that we were late. So we were usually wrapping up a little bit before now, but we came on a half hour late because of technology. It is Mercury retrograde. But some researchers speculate that the vivid experiences reporting during NDEs may be contributed to the release of DMT in the pineal gland, and is suggesting that these experiences could be neurochemical rather than purely spiritual. I'll say that again. Suggestions and theories and hypotheses suggest that these experiences could be neurochemical rather than purely spiritual. So again, we're bringing the anatomy, the physiology, the science, and the spirituality together. And I think that's what happened to me years ago. Like I said, there's ongoing studies both in the animal world and the human, even though it's limited for humans. I think AI will be another tool to help us understand what exactly happens at the time of death. And that's why some theorize that this is this is not our reality, that this is our simulation, and that upon the time of death, DMT releases, the breath stops, the energy in the heart has to go somewhere by the laws of physics, so the energy starts to move to that next state of consciousness or evolution. Like I said, you're going to see a big uptick in psychedelic research, almost like a renaissance, to be honest with you. We know that a lot of the man-made drugs, our healthcare system is not a healthcare system. It's a health sick system because it's made for profit. And a lot of this, in my own experience with plant medicine, I was told how to relearn how to do this and how to make the right concoction without killing ourselves. And I was told that we've had this connection for thousands of years. It's only within the last few centuries that we've really detached and gone the way of concrete cities, getting away from nature. Like I said, my religion is nature, and my belief is love. But as we start to learn more about ourselves, again, with all the roaring 20s and everything that's going on, extra dimensional beings, they might instruct us to be like, yeah, you guys have had this plant medicine at your fingertips the whole time, but you decided you wanted to use alternatives like alcohol and man-made medications, because what drives the world is money. And what makes money? Those, right? Big pharmaceuticals, right? So I think that the renewed interest in psychedelics has led to a wave of studies investigating not only their potential to treat various mental health conditions and disorders, but I think DMT's rapid onset, because it after you take it, it's within 10 to 20 minutes, it's kicking in, right? And it's a short duration of action, make it an intriguing candidate for therapeutic use. Like I said, that's why I've used it for my own mental health and my own grief and my own healing. And I've used it several times and correspond over 3 days. I have one coming up here shortly in a couple of weeks for 3 days. And we'll go from 6:30 at night until 3 o'clock in the morning. It's fabulous. And I'll take a second dose, and it's quite stimulating. It's quite eye-opening, but it's not easy for courage to get there either. You have to have some trust and some courage along the way. But the mindfulness and the spirituality, many users report transformative experiences that lead to increased mindfulness, spirituality, improved emotional well-being. Check, check, and check. They've also found that this has sparked interest in further research on how these experiences might relate to death and dying. There's definitely something there, anatomy and physiology. You know, the indigenous use, indigenous cultures have been using this for years. I know that there are tribes down in Peru that actually microdose their children with ayahuasca, which is a plant in a vine. I actually have one of them right here. This is actually the root of ayahuasca. It's a root in a vine that's actually boiled down and made into a concoction, very similar to coffee. Actually, it's very brown like this. So it's funny, like you look at coffee. Now, mine is brown because I actually put in some hemp milk this morning, but it's very similar, just not as good as tasting as coffee. But it's been used in centuries by indigenous cultures, and not only for spiritual, but for healing purposes. And these traditions often emphasize the connection between life, death, afterlife. Live, die, live again. Live, die, live again. The philosophical implications, the exploration of DMT and its relationship to death raises serious philosophical questions about consciousness, about who we are, the nature of our existence, who we are, why we're here, and what happens after we leave here. And one of the things that I think about often, especially over the last few weeks, because I'm living with loss, is I took a picture of Moose right before he transferred, right before he got his shot. And I've long wondered, and this is why I'm talking about this today. I've got the picture, but the picture's for me. But I'll show you the picture that I did of him over the Rainbow Bridge. But there's a picture of him right at the time that he was getting ready to transfer over. And he was laying on my wife's hand, which he had just that day had gotten a ring, which was a kitty ring. Actually, I'll just show you. That's Moose right before his transformation. And you can see that he's on Jenny's hand with the kitty ring that she had got. It was back ordered and it arrived that day. So the synchronicities, the universe talks to you through coincidences and synchronicities. I know not everybody's going to believe that until you've had your own experiences. And if you have, come visit me at marclainhart.com, get into my spiritual growth collective. We have conversations every Wednesday and debates and practices and exercises to continue to prospect for the diamond within, but also the many hidden gems that are all around us. And I look at that picture and I long think about, because one day I too will be where he is at. Maybe one day I wake up and my kidneys fail, right? So I got to get ready for that next adventure. And I hope that it's not, suffering, that, by then there's technology that I can take a shot and I can go over the Rainbow Bridge. But I'm curious, as he was making his journey over the Rainbow Bridge, did DMT release to help him with, that transformation and that fear, right? That fear of the unknown, the fear of death. And I think it's almost like a comfort blanket that when we're about to die, just like when we're about to be born, a lot of stimulation, dark, warm, all of a sudden light, cold, people talking, people crying. And there's that old adage that when we leave here, it's lost and living with loss for those that are here, but it's also a reunion for those that have gone ahead of us. And, that's the irony of it, the lost here. And that's what they always say when we come in kicking and screaming and crying. And we look like little old men when we're born, right? And then everybody's cheering and happy for life. But then everybody is crying at the end of our life and sad when the person going home is like, I'm out. I did it. I came, I learned, I grew, I transformed, and now I'm going to go on to the next stage. So death is not to be scared of, y'all. I know we worry about how we're going to go. I know I've thought about that many times. Like, how am I going to go? Am I going to go like my brothers, like my father-in-law, like Moosey? I had a friend that committed suicide. I'm not doing that. But I think about death and dying since the age of 27. when my own stress obviously released something within my brain that allows me to do what I do today. But I'm also comforted by the knowing through the experience of plant medicines and DMT that at that point of death that we call death, which I'm really starting to wonder if it is actually just and it's an illusion, right? And all of a sudden that DMT releases out our pineal gland. We take our last breath, exhale, and then the new journey begins. And that DMT is kind of that comfort blanket for how we make that transformation. So I hope that makes sense. Let me go over the page here. I'll just give some shout outs. If you have any questions, leave a question in the comment section. You can also catch our next podcast will be at the end of March. We have 2 shows coming up on the 18th and 25th. Again, we have moved into Om Times Television. So we're on the Om Times Television network for all of the shows. The podcast will still go podcast out to wherever you get your favorite podcasting platforms or wherever you get your favorite podcast on your favorite podcasting platforms, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Podbean. There's a ton of them. So we'll continue to do that. It's just now our interviews will be via Om Times Television in their Om Times studio, and it'll be more of this interaction. So I'm excited for just the new challenges, the new experiences. I'll go over to the page and just see if anybody's hanging out with us, give you a shout out. Again, thanks for your patience. Thanks for sitting in with me. Thanks for listening. Appreciate all of you. And let's get over to the Intuitive Prospector. There we go. It says live. Let's see here. Hi, Angelique. Good to see you. Hi, Colleen. Hi, Natalie. All right. A few of you on. All right. Well, thanks for joining. Again, today we're talking about the journey of DMT in the release upon death. I think it's just a comfort blanket. It's something that because we're all going to the same place, right? I think we forget that in this world that's very chaotic and, some would say divided. It's divided, but it's been divided for a long time. I mean, you can go back to, 70 years ago and we're in the civil rights where just based on how you look, you were treated differently, right? I think we'll get to that point maybe with, the introduction of aliens, and the aliens are real, which I know they are and have been for many, many years. Maybe then we'll start looking at each other with a little bit more respect and not that I want this, but I wouldn't be surprised if a new racism is born based on, somebody looks different from ourselves, literally has, different hearts, different brain, different eyes, different, based on, are they here? Have they been here the entire time and observing us and has technology doesn't allow us to interact with them? Or are they from a different place? If they're from a different place or a different time, they are going to look different scientifically, based on their environment, gravity, no gravity, how they eat. Our arms are as long to allow us to reach out and grab food and bring food to our mouth, just like the octopus is completely different than us, but we know that it's intelligent. We know that it has logic. We know it has reasoning and problem solving skills. We know that it has multiple hearts, multiple brains, but yet has no DNA related to anybody on the planet. No, there's no cousins to the octopus. And so that means it's not from here. It's from somewhere else. And scientists have long said if humans ended the day like the dinosaurs did 65 million years ago, the one species that would probably prevail would be the octopus because of its ability in its ability to survive and its ability to even have a sense of humor. It actually, there's a great documentary came out a couple years ago called My Octopus Teacher, and they even have a sense of humor. If they don't like a fish, they'll throw a shell at it, right? I mean, it's just, it's a great documentary if you want to check it out. But thanks for joining in. Leave a comment what you thought about today's comments about DMT and death and dying and the release of DMT upon death. I think there'll be more studies that will come to light, both through, unfortunately, animal testing, through human testing, where people can say, yes, you can, like my brother before he passed from his glioblastoma, which is brain cancer. It started on the left temporal of his brain. He actually gave his body to science. And so they did 2 brain mappings of his brain with the cancer, how it went around the cancer, without the cancer. But he actually gave his body to science so they could learn from this. He was one of the first patients here in Seattle that actually volunteer for the brain study, the brain mapping, brain scanning. Looked really weird when he came out of surgery the second time because he looked like something out of a Star Trek movie, the board where he had all these cables coming out of the back of his head. He had his scar was like a question mark. And he had all these cables coming in that connected to a computer. But because of that, I will probably give my mind and body to science to study, like, why am I able to do what I do? And I think it's going to be fascinating. But I think that the study of DMT right now, particularly in its role during death, there's something there to DMT. Again, just try good soma breath work to open up the DMT. You also have DMT. It's about how you utilize it, access it, release it. It's all based on your free will and choice. But it's multifaceted. It's still in its infancy. And I think as research progresses, especially with AI and especially AI in medicine, I believe that we're going to gain deeper insights from not only the biochemical process of DMT, what the experiences that I've had, both associated before DMT with my own near-death experiences, after ingesting DMT, and my experiences since then. I think that there are some profound experiences, and I'm giving you firsthand knowledge and firsthand advice of my own experiences, and I've used it in plant medicine now several times, 9 times so far to date. By the end of this month, by the end of March, it would be 12 times. And it's, I think it's going to be a specific study of our future that's going to help us to understand what death is all about. Because what we don't understand, like death, leads us to fear, leads us to belief, can lead us to religion. I don't want to believe anymore. I'm done believing in my journey. I want to know. Knowing is half the battle. I grew up with G.I. Joe in the 70s and 80s, and they'd always say, knowing is half the battle. I want to be that. I want to know half the battle. I don't want to believe. I was raised in religion with a belief system that really didn't ever deliver. And once I moved into spirituality and the wanting to know, things really started to unfold for me and make sense to me consciously. But again, some people are looking at that and say that's spiritual woo-woo or you're crazy. That's fine. Maybe I'm a little crazy. Maybe I have lost my mind a little bit. Maybe that's okay too. We can all lose our minds in the search for evolution and progress and transformation and healing. And I can tell you my experiences with DMT has done just that. So, hi, Don. Good to see you. So leave a comment where you're from if you're new. If you're one of my subscribers, excuse me, if you're one of my subscribers, either on Patreon, one of my Patreon prospectors, or here on Diamonds Hub on Facebook, I always give you an opportunity if you need a reading, you need something real quick, just chime in, leave a comment. Happy to work with my subscribers. Both free and paid on today. If you're a free subscriber, that's fine. If you're a paid subscriber, even better. You'll know because you have a badge next to your name if you're a Facebook Diamonds Hub subscriber. If you're over on Patreon, just let me know that you're a Patreon prospector, because there's a few more people over there than on Diamonds Hub. And I'll give you some guidance. Just a reminder, next week, I will be on the road. It is Diamonds Day. I'm getting over a little cold. I think Zion let me release and honor my grief, but also brought forth a cold when you fly. But I'll try to, I'm going to be down in Vegas next week. Next Friday, I'm going to try to come on if the time allows. First Friday of every month is Diamonds Day for the subscribers. If I'm not able to get on because of agenda or travel or technology, I will make it up the following week to you, which will be the 13th of March. And so just FYI, if I'm not on next week, and how that works with my subscribers is there's a page for Diamonds Hub and there's a page for Patreon, and within those pages are links to Zoom. There's 2 sessions, one in the morning, 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, one at 3 p.m. for my both my international students and collective and in the United States for those people that are subscribers. So it's 2 options. First Friday of every month, Diamonds Days. It's a great way to interact with me. It's a way that I can manage my time effectively, but give back to you as a subscriber. And give you, that one Friday every month to come in and prospect with me. And we can do everything from sound baths to meditations to psychic to mediumship to intuitive. There's a lot of things that we can do within that, but it is one of the features of being a subscriber with me. And again, you can get those links right here at marclainhart.com. So I just want to say thank you for hanging out with me today. Again, we talked about the exploration of DMT and death and dying, and the release of DMT at the time of death and dying, or severe stressful situations or traumatic situations that release. If you want to go deeper down this rabbit hole with me, visit me here, book a reading, ask to visit my Spiritual Growth Collective group on Wednesdays. It's not open to the public. It is a closed group, so we have to do some vetting to make sure that it's the right place for you, and it's also the right place for the collective. But I've got amazing people all over the country, Canada and England, or Europe, UK, Wales, she'll get mad if I said England. But it's about just exploring. Life is short. So carpe diem, seize the day, as we like to say. So I wish all of you a very happy Friday. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Again, wearing my prideful Seahawks. We are the best in the world right now. This is kind of a cool jersey too, right? You got the Super Bowl. You got the nation's about to hit 250. It's got 50 years as Seattle Seahawks, my entire life. And as the sun is shining through my window, I hope that you just have a great rest of your Friday, a blessed weekend. You know, find the present moment, take the time to disconnect so you can make the time to reconnect, practice your pause, and I will be back with you hopefully next Friday, and if not, the Friday after, and then we'll be back on the air for Inspired Living, both now Om Times Television and Inspired Living podcast, the last 2 Wednesdays of the month, the 18th and the 25th. And enjoy your Mercury retrograde. Take time to have patience, especially if you're traveling. Don't do any big projects, sign any big legal papers. Be patient with technology like we were today. Like I said, I had to reboot everything. But I appreciate all of you. And thanks for tuning in. Leave a comment where you're from. Love to give you a shout out. Say hi. And if any of my subscribers need something, put that in the comment too, and I'll get to you right now. If not, I will cue up some music to take us home, to take us into the weekend. The weekend of unknowns. Buckle up. It's the year of the one, the year of the horse. It's I just posted a picture of the Joker from the Batman series saying, and here we go, because things are about to get real. All right, let's take us home with a fun song. Ooh, what's this? Dance on the Golden Snake. Oh, interesting. I want something upbeat. Excuse me. I apologize. More water. Got to get out in nature. All right. Looking for an upbeat song. I have a whole list of artists that I can choose from, so that's why I'm hip hop. This What We Doing by Sid Vice. All right, we'll try this. This is What We're Doing by Sid Vice. This is a hip hop song. So if you don't have any comments for me, I'll go ahead and end here, put a pin in it. And I always like to say namaste, namago. Unless I see some comments come in. I'm not seeing any comments come in. You can also catch shows like this over on my YouTube channel. If you want to subscribe over there, we always have good times over on YouTube channel. But I will take us home there. And as I always like to say, whether it's my shows, whether it's my official television show, Inspired Living, or my podcast, Inspired Living, like I said, take the time to disconnect so you can make that time to reconnect. But most importantly, life is short. Carpe diem, seize the day. Dare to dream, dare to explore, dare to live, and find that diamond within and the many hidden gems that are all around us. And most importantly on this journey, be kind, be caring, be compassionate, because that's very, very important for the journey. So I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time here on Metaphysical Meetup with the Intuitive Prospector. Take care, everybody.
What are we doing? What do we do? What are we doing? What do we do? This what we doing. This what we doing. What are we doing? Go get it. That's you. Mr. Collins, trust process, no skips. Make a deposit, go in. Don't feel awesome, don't it? 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 Put your people on it when you can't afford it. It's a reason for it. Y'all gon' be real with it. It might take a moment. This what we doing. This what we doing. What are we doing? This what we doing. This what we doing. You got the components when you can't afford it. It's a reason for it. Y'all gon' be real with it. It might take a moment. This what we doing. This what we doing. What are we doing? This what we doing. This what we doing. This what we doing. I'm out the way, not today. That's a vacate. The kid got some money coming through. That's a play date. Ducks in a row and they all cooperate at the proper rate. Out the way, fixing up the cave, now I'm hibernate. Everything in moderate, it's not a race. Let's match your bodies late. Used to run a fader, now they automate. It's all the rage. Everything in moderate, it's not a race. Let's match your bodies late. Used to run a fader, now they automate. It's all the rage. Put your people on it when you can't afford it. It's a reason for it. Y'all gon' be rewarded. It might take a moment. This what we doing. This what we doing. What are we doing? This what we doing. This what we doing. You got the components when you can't afford it. It's a reason for it. Y'all gon' be rewarded. It might take a moment. This what we doing. This what we doing. What are we doing? This what we doing. This what we doing. This what we doing. What it's all about. I put my foot all over season pro. Plan on brand on stand on Ben IE. Head, shoulders, knees and toes. Foul from the logo. Hitting threes and fours. I'm choosing foes. Spin move with the undertow. Coming from a spot that's under slow. What are we doing? Go get it. Go get it. That's you. That's you. This what we doing. Go get it. Go get it. That's you. Go get it. That's you. What do we go get it? Go get it. Doing. That's you. That's you. This what we go get it. Go get it. That's you. Doing. Go get it. That's you.